I'm excited, and I say good morning, Nigeria, good morning, Oyo State. This is the agenda live from Dominion Brokers House, Iagoku, Ibadan. I am Chike Obogu. And so today, we ask a question that refuses to die. After centuries of slavery, centuries of colonialism, and neo-colonialism, even centuries of post-colonial era, does the world owe Africa, and specifically Nigeria, reparations? Who are the real actors pulling the strings? Who are the victims still paying the price in 2026? And what exactly should the Nigerian state, do about reparations? Very interesting discourse this morning. And in the studio with me is one of Nigeria's sharpest minds, economists and public affairs analysts, Ignatius Ofino. It's good to have you this morning, Comrade Ignatius Ofino. I want to get down your middle name, but it's always been elusive. Eboseluime. Eboseluime. What does that mean?
It means that what God has done for me. That was what my parents said. That they were so grateful to God. Because I'm a twin.
You are a twin?
Yes, I'm the second twin, Kende.
Where's your first twin?
He's still in Nigeria. He has already completed his PhD.
Okay.
Yes. He's also an economist too.
He's an economist too?
Yes. His area of specialization is what we call monetary economics.
Monetary economics. That's a macroeconomic principle.
Yes.
You guys are cerebral. It's good to have you once again on the agenda.
Good morning, Mazi Chike Obogu.
All right, let's set the table for our teaming audience in Ibadan, our teaming audience in Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt, and even in diaspora. Global reparation is not begging money. It is a demand for justice backed by historical evidence, economic data, and moral logic. From the transatlantic slave trade that removed an estimated 3.5 million Nigerians to colonial forced labor, down to the extraction of our palm oil, our groundnut, the extraction of our tin, extraction of our crude oil without fair compensation. That ledger is a long ledger. But Comrade Ofino, break it down for the man selling tomatoes in Bodija market. Why should he care about global reparation today in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Chike. When we talk about reparation, reparation simply means an act to amend or offer compensation to the wrong that was done in the past, to an injustice that was done in the past. There is one thing we must understand, that history has a way of repeating itself. One, as a tragedy. Two, as a fact. Sometimes it repeats itself both as what? Tragic facts.
Okay.
So when we are talking about the injustice that was meted against certain group of persons in the past, is so pathetic. The pain is still there, especially Africa. When we are talking about Africa today, it has been said that Africa is the home of man. Africa is the center of the world. That Africa itself happened to be the descent where man came from, historically and based on archaeological facts. But here now we are talking about injustice that was done against Africa during the slave trade era, the transatlantic slave trade that was done by the European powers, the trans-Saharan slave trade that was done by the Arab world against Africans. So there is need for reparation. The emotional pain is there. In Americas today, we have what we call the African American. They were slaves, or the black Negroes. Yeah. When you use that word Negro, it's derogatory.
How far derogatory is it?
It's derogatory. You are saying that I am inferior to you just because I am black, just because I'm not a white man like you, a racist society. The emotional pain is there. Then when you go to the Arab world during the slave trade, most African men were castrated.
Okay.
So you can never find an African Arab in the Arab world, although you can find an African American in the Americans.
Okay.
So there's a huge difference. So Africa was subjected to what we call servitude, slavery. Not just that alone. African artifacts were also being looted.
We know many of them, especially the bronze in Benin, the brass in Benin, and so many sculptures that were looted from Africa.
More especially, you know what happened in 1884, 1885, the Berlin Conference, when the European powers met together in Germany, Berlin.
Yes.
That was where they decided to partition Africa.
They partitioned
Africa as a loaf of bread, a sliced bread. You don't ascribe ownership to what does not belong to you.
Maybe because of the resources.
Yes, because of the resources, fine. But in 1897, during the Benin massacre, when they invaded Benin, they looted the ancient artifact of Benin Empire. And that artifact today has been spread across the world. So that is why we are demanding for what we call repatriation. Let me give you an instance.
Reparation different from repatriation.
That it must be returned
Bring back
yes, what
our
you looted.
stolen items.
Yes, it's our identity. It's the African identity. Let me give you an instance. When you look at the Republic of South Africa during the days of the apartheid, do you know that the royal scepter in the hands of His Imperial Majesty, King Charles, belonged to who? Belonged to the South Africans. When you look at that royal scepter, it was made from pure gold from South Africa. That was why the South Africans were demanding that return the royal scepter back to us. Because that royal scepter was made from pure gold in South Africa. And when you look at the South African anthem, it was composed from 5 different languages: Zulu, Afrikaans, Xhosa, Swahili, and English. Because when you look at South Africa, it is a multi-racial country. The same thing also applies for those in Benin. They are agitating that there must be repatriation of those looted artifacts. So a lot of things like that is also part of what we call reparation. When you are talking about reparation, you are talking about moral justice for an injustice that was done in the past. We know some of our kings that were also indulging in what we call slave trade. But now, before the abolition of the slave trade, look at what happened. Let me give you an instance again. The history of the United States. The Aborigines are the Red Indians.
Those are the owners of the land.
Yes, the owners of the land. You know how many Red Indians that died? They killed over 15 million Red Indians. How do you compensate for that? So when you are talking about the injustice in the past, it's so the emotional pain is there. Sometimes I bleed, I cry. Do you know what it means for you to be taken away from your own country, from your own cultural identity, to a foreign land, a distant land, across the sea, a place of no return? Kinte Kante.
Kinte Kante.
Yes.
Yeah, you remind me of that phrase. Kinte Kante. Well, in a bit we'll be seeing graphics of the transatlantic slave trade. We'll see graphics of it on our screen in a bit, as the frame will be coming up in a bit. However, now the intrigues of the reparation. Now, why is this conversation suddenly getting louder in 2026 after many centuries?
It's getting louder in 2026 because few days ago, or week ago, to be precise, the General Assembly of the United Nations met.
Yeah, UNGA.
Yes, when they met, then the issue of repatriation became the subject of debate. When it became the subject of debate, 53 countries, mostly European countries, did not vote. But the United States of America, Israel, and Argentina voted against reparation. But other countries of the world now decided that they are in support of what? Reparation. There must be reparation, compensation for victims. It's so pathetic. They must return our looted artifacts back to us. It is our own cultural identity as Africans. No human being was born with chains or fetters. Everyone was born free. But the issue of the class system is an institution created by man. That was what led to the issue of slavery. Look at what it is. Someone taken from his shores, bound in chains and fetters, under extreme weather condition, cold. My heart bleed. It seems I should cry.
If you look at the, don't cry, Ofino, don't cry. If you look at the colonialism to reparations, the historical timeline, you'll find out that in the 1440s, the Portuguese arrived Africa in the 1440s, and later on they stayed till 1807, when the British came and abolished the stay of the Portuguese at that time, as it were, and then they continued the trade, the slave trade. Many names, when you hear many names in Africa, especially in Nigeria, like the Hernandez, the Dos Santos, and the likes, you find out.
You are talking about the Latinos, Latin American.
Yeah, you find out that those guys were part of those, maybe their fathers were the Portuguese, the Saros that came at that time. And you'd also look at it. From there, then there was the Berlin Conference, which you mentioned in 1885, where they sat down to decide the fate of Africa. Like you said, it was like slicing. The what do you call it now? It was like slicing
partitioning of
the bread. Yes,
like a sliced bread.
Yes, you said that. And then in 1960. Independence came to several African countries with strings of the colonial masters attached to it. For example, in Nigeria, at independence, on that day, 1960, October 1, you find out that we're still using the Union Jack as the flag of Nigeria until there was the Republican Constitution of 1963 that made Nigeria a sovereign state and then have its flag. And from there, the AU in 2023 declared reparations. In 2023, there was a reparation declaration by the African Union then. But how effective did that reparation declaration of 2023 go? How far did it go, and how well has it gone so far?
Each time I remember Kinta Kinte, my heart bleeds. And when I read the book written by Walter Rooney, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, my heart also bleeds. There is one thing that is very fundamental, that the West or Africa, not only apology, but compensation, full compensation. Now you can see what happened now, from slavery to colonialism, from colonialism to political freedom, from political freedom to what we now have, neo-colonialism or neo-imperialism. Now Africa is heavily indebted to the West. Do you know that your economy is usually at stake when you go to the capital market from international financial institution to go and borrow money? Your economy is at risk because they will ask you to go and devalue your currency. I'm just trying to tell you about the manipulation of the West against Africa.
Will you classify China as part of the West?
China is not part of the West. It belongs to the Eastern Bloc.
Is it the Eastern Bloc or the Asian Bloc?
The Asian Tigers.
Yeah. But China seems to be the strong power front in Africa today.
And what they did is that's what we call expansionist movement or agenda.
Okay.
Market expansion. When you look at China, China is a communist economy. But outside their shore, they play what we call capitalism. It's a model.
So that model, that
model.
capitalist approach by China,
outside their shores.
So many have said was just to fight an economic war with the United States of America to gain a world power status outside their shores.
It's still a subject of debate.
America is still the world power, economic power.
It's still a subject of debate, though we don't have an American empire. But when we are talking about this issue of reparation, it is when America decides that there must be full compensation, because you cannot separate America from the United Nations.
But why should America decide?
It's so pathetic. You know,
unilaterally.
When I heard that American government raised objection and they voted against reparation, my heart bleed. I said, why did my friend, President
You would have talked to your friend.
My friend, President Donald Trump.
Why didn't you call your friend?
Why did he do this to us?
You call your friend. He's your friend.
He's my friend. I cannot deny that. But
Donald Trump is your friend.
But I'm not happy.
Talk to your friend.
He's not happy. I'm not happy. Because he was supposed to support that idea and that motion. Because when you're talking about America, America is a multiracial country. We have the African American. We have the Arab American.
Jewish American.
The Jewish Americans
Asian
are there.
American.
The Asian Americans are there. So for the American government to have voted against reparation, are we saying that America is not in support of global freedom and global justice?
Maybe they still want to become the slave masters till their kingdom.
No, it's not supposed to be.
Talk to your friend.
Definitely, we are using this platform to appeal to my friend, His Excellency, President Donald Trump, that the time has come for him to support reparation as a moral cause and also as a moral justice to Africa and to all victims.
Would you call him?
Definitely. I'm using this platform to call him. President Donald Trump is my friend.
Okay. Now we're talking about the intrigues and why the conversation suddenly got louder in 2026. You mentioned a few things, but let's talk about the victims at this time. Who are those victims of reparation? Apart from world powers, apart from presently in 2026, who are the victims of reparation? There are so many kids that are in school without roofs. There are graduates who ride Okada all here and there. You know, there are widows in the IDP camps. Are they also victims of reparation?
They are also victims of reparation domestically. You know, when we look at history, France did not just enter Africa. It was a negotiation between Britain and France. Because when you look at historically, Britain was classified as a sea power. France was classified as a land power, historically. Germany broke away from France. Germany was formerly part of France. So we had two superpowers then. We had Britain, who was a sea power. When it comes to the issue of warfare on sea, Britain, you cannot rule them out. When it comes to the issue of land power, France was there. But because of the Suez Canal, that Suez Canal was constructed by France at a huge cost. So there was a negotiation between Britain and France. That was why they said the only way they can be able to compensate France is just for France to ensure that it goes into Africa. So that was why France succeeded in going into Africa. And from there we started having what we call colonialism gradually. You can see French colonies.
Are these also victims of reparation?
These ones are victims of what we call banditry and insecurity in Nigeria.
We're coming down to Nigeria. We'll discuss that. So who is really bleeding at the moment?
Mostly every one of us are bleeding. Even if you are not living in chains and you heard the story, your history, that your forebears were taken away as slaves to foreign land, the tendency is there for you as a human being to cry, to bleed. Because it affected every community in Africa. The slave trade affected every one of us. You know, I was talking about the issue of the royal scepter in the hands of His Imperial Majesty, King Charles. When you look at that royal scepter, it's weighing not less than 3,000 pounds or ounce. Now, when you're talking about reparation, it will be very difficult for the Buckingham Palace to return that royal scepter to South Africa. Because the gold was made from South African gold, pure gold. And the South Africans are demanding that for reparation, that royal scepter was made from their own gold. It must be returned to South Africa.
Before we go on a break, I want us to, try to work on our minds now. Now, Africa is talking about reparation.
Yes.
The whites or the Western world has taken so many things away from Africa.
Yes.
What is left in Africa? Can't we make do with those things and even improve on it and think on how to better the life of the African continent? Why must we depend on the West to return what they took? What we have, can't we make do with it?
Let me give you an instance. Nigeria is still a political stinge of the British Imperial Majesty. The oil, as we were told, is located in Nigeria, but it belongs to the British. The crude oil, I'm talking about our crude oil.
How does it belong to the British?
It belongs to them.
Do you have any documentation?
It belongs to them. They still see Nigeria as a conquered territory. Why is it that in Nigeria today, you now export crude to Netherlands, British Petroleum, where they have up to 5 to 6 refineries? It is now being refined. Then you now import it back to Nigeria as a finished product. Our refineries are not working. The crude is located in Nigeria, but it belongs to Britain. That is the intrigue. Why is it that before you are being qualified to become the Nigerian president, you go to Chatham House in London? Very soon they will be invited to Chatham House. Few weeks ago, His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was invited by His Imperial Majesty to the Buckingham Palace. He was celebrated. It's deep. Probably His Imperial Majesty will have asked him, why did you allow America to establish a military base in Nigeria? I think that is one of the fundamental questions His Imperial Majesty will want to ask our president.
Is that wrong for America to have done that?
No! But there is one thing, the British government is usually afraid of America. Especially under the leadership of President Donald Trump. You can see Trump wants NATO to join in that fight. But NATO has declined. And you can see the way my friend, President Donald Trump, made derogatory statement against Europe and NATO on that matter.
Your friend, the President of America, seemed to be heady.
No, he's blunt.
He's blunt.
Yeah, there's one thing.
But to the detriment of the average American.
I wouldn't know.
Well, we'll go on a break, and when we come back, more talking points. We'll ask the question, what is the concrete agenda for the Nigerian state in 2026? Stick around. Don't go away.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
All right, welcome back from that break. It's still the agenda. And I'm Chike Obogu. So before we went on that break, I wanted to ask this question. And my guest here is Ignatius Ofino here. So what is the concrete agenda for the Nigerian state in 2026?
You know, there is one thing you must understand when we come to the issue of public governance. It's about service delivery to the people. Then when we are talking about your foreign policy actually counts. I believe in African brotherhood.
Okay.
How united are the African countries when it comes to the issue of reparation? Nigeria alone cannot fight this fight. The African countries must come together under an organization called the African Union to project this struggle, that we need reparation for the injustice that was meted against Africa in the past. That is one. But now let's go back to our home countries. As individual country in Africa, we have some citizens in Africa living as refugees in their own country as a result of what? Insecurity caused by religious extremism, caused by banditry, and caused by what we call bad governance. I remember what this man said, Paulo Silo. I love his philosophical maxim. You know what he said? He said the worst part of a society manipulated by politics is to see the poor defending the rich who are responsible for their poverty.
Which is seemingly what's happening in most countries.
It's in Africa. So you blame the masses the more. When you are talking about political thugs working for the capitalist politicians in Africa, most of these political thugs are children of the masses. What stops the masses congregating together, registering a political party, and winning election? But it's so pathetic that the masses that are being oppressed, they keep voting for their oppressors and ensuring that their oppressors return to power. So there's a big problem on ground domestically.
We've talked about, before we come to messages on the app X, we have tons of messages here from across Nigeria on the app X. But before we come to those messages, there's this question I want to ask you. We've been talking about international issues of reparation, even in Nigeria as a country. Have there been internal calls for reparation?
There is. When you look at the Civil War in 1967 to 1970, General Yakubu Gowon made a bold statement. He said, no victor, no vanquish. And he said he believes in 3 R. Reconciliation, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. For the Indigbos, the Biafran Civil War. But for till date, the Indigbos are yet to be absorbed into the Nigerian system. They are yet to be reabsorbed back into the system. Now, is that not an injustice? And I keep saying it over and over again, that if you don't want the Igbo race or the Indigbo to rule Nigeria, you don't have any moral right to continue to rule over them, although I am not calling for secession. So when we are talking about reparation, there is a problem on ground. The Indigbos should be reabsorbed into the Nigerian political system. They should be allowed to rule Nigeria. That is also a form of reparation. We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. We have victims of political violence in Nigeria. How many of them have been compensated? I remember the Jewish Holocaust caused in Germany.
Yeah.
6 million Jews. Is that not an injustice?
When many of
genocide.
When many of them were prisoners of war.
Yes.
And many escaped from Sobibor.
Yes.
I remember that movie, Escape from Sobibor.
Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
He was the one that developed the hydrogen bomb. He was a German Jew. He escaped from Germany to the United States. We have to be honest to ourselves. In Nigeria today, there is what we call tribal injustice. Every Nigerian citizen is a potential president, although not every Nigerian citizen will have that opportunity or privilege to be elected president in a lifetime.
Well, let's get to our messages now. Now we'll be taking them one after the other, and there will be reactions from Ignatius Ofino in the studio. Dr. Aisha Bello is saying, Mr. Ofino, if Germany paid Holocaust reparations and paid Namibia for the Herero genocide, Western nations treat African slaves as second class, what legal precedent can Nigeria cite?
It's a fundamental question. So African Union can try to seek for justice at the International Court of Justice, Hague, Netherlands, on this issue of reparation, because it affects Africa emotionally. Africans are traumatized. You know that there was one time in Nigeria, they canceled history as a subject. Because when you look at history, sometimes it calls for vengeance. You want to revenge. So this particular ethnic group during the Civil War killed my parents, killed my great-grandfather. The tendency is there for you to avenge. But we are not calling for vengeance here now. We are calling for justice.
And inclusion.
Inclusion.
Okay.
Now, what stops the West accommodating Africa, giving Africa a permanent seat at the defense?
Maybe they feel Africa is not competent enough.
We are competent. We have the resources.
Then you show your workings.
No, it's just a failure on the part of the African leaders.
Well, if there are pockets of insecurity everywhere in Africa, so show your doings before you get to the permanent seat in the United Nations.
Do you know that it is the West that is causing most of the conflict in Africa and also in the Middle East?
Why do we blame outsiders?
Just because of the resources.
Why do we blame outsiders for our in-house problems?
Though there is no excuse for failure. There is no excuse for failure. But we are talking about international conspiracy. We had an illustrious son in Africa. So pathetic. We lost him. We didn't lose him through natural death. We lost him because of what? International conspiracy. I'm talking about Colonel Muammar Gaddafi of Libya.
Oh, interesting.
Very interesting. He's one of the illustrious sons of Africa.
Illustrious?
Yes, he also believes in reparation.
But that could be subjective. That could be a relative assertion. Many also see him as not being an illustrious son of Africa.
Probably because he ruled for 42 years as a dictator. But we are talking about human welfare. Libyans lived well. Their economy was strong. Their currency was strong. How do you describe such a man?
They're suffering now.
Why?
Because there's no more Gaddafi.
There is no more Gaddafi.
All right. Tunde Ademi in Ibadan is saying, I sell tomatoes every day. If this money from reparation comes, how do we stop our politicians from stealing it like they stole COVID-19 palliatives? Well, this is an interesting and funny question, but it's serious and demands an answer.
It demands an answer. But there is one thing we have discovered in this country. You have to build strong institutions and also build strong men, honest men. Do you know that Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore transformed Singapore from third world country to a first world country based on 3 criteria: meritocracy, pragmatism, and honesty. We need honest leaders. It's not easy for the president to steal public funds without connivance from the central bank governor, without connivance from the Minister of Finance. The same thing also applies at the state level. It's not easy for an executive governor of a state to steal public funds without connivance from the Commissioner of Finance and the Accountant General of the state. Those are civil servants.
Appointed by who?
By the governor.
Okay, they will do his business. But there's this part of Tunde Ademi's question you've not answered. He said, if this one is conditional, if this money from reparation comes, how do we stop our politicians from stealing it like they stole the COVID-19 palliative?
We are not talking that they should give us money. They should develop Africa. infrastructurally.
So if they develop Africa, don't you think they still have a strong hold on Africa?
They should develop Africa infrastructurally.
And hand it over to Africans?
Yes.
How will they hand
Then
it
they
over?
should also find a way of developing the African economy. African economy is in shambles
Can't Africa
as a result
fix our
of international conspiracy. Let me look
Can't
at
Africa fix our economy?
We can fix our economy.
So do we need the West to
But
do
the
anything
debt
for us?
is there. Huge debt burden.
Let it be debt
We are paying more for debt
Let it be
servicing.
debt for reparation. Let's swap. Let's know it's better. Okay, we've paid our debts. You've reiterated everything to us. And then leave us and let's stay.
Wow, that's a good idea.
But it sounds so simple, but it's not that simple.
It's not easy because they are capitalists.
Okay.
Capitalists will never want to let go of their money. Because that was what we call capital investment. That is a good idea. If they can be able to cancel the debt of Africa as a swap for reparation. But that is not the end. Aside that, they must also find a way of developing Africa infrastructurally.
Okay.
And through what we call technology transfer.
Okay, so let's go to the next comment here on the app X. Choma Okonkwo is saying, as a young entrepreneur, I want to know, can reparations include technology transfer and debt cancellation instead of just cash? You see, what we just talked about.
That is what we just talked about now.
Yeah. So
debt cancellation can also be part of it too. Technology transfer can also be part of it too. I believe in what we call global unification.
Okay.
We are all human beings. We breathe the same oxygen. The color of our blood is red, irrespective of your skin color. The color of our blood is red. So we are human beings. We breathe the same oxygen. So I believe in what we call global unification. But when it comes to the issue of artifacts, those African artifacts, ancient artifacts must be returned back to the host communities. Now, let me give you an instance. Like what happened in 1897 during the days of His Imperial Majesty. Oba Ovorame Nogbaisi, the Benin massacre of 1897. They looted the artifacts in Benin Empire. So those artifacts must be returned back to the Benin Palace, not Museum of West Africa, MOA, that has become a subject of controversy now in Edo State. You know, Museum of West African Arts.
Yeah.
It was being established by Godwin Obaseki, the former governor of Edo State. It's still a subject of controversy for now. So if those artifacts are going to be returned, they should be returned back to the palace
of the Oba of Benin.
Of the Oba of Benin, His Imperial Majesty, Omonoba, Nedo Uku, Opolopolo, Eredi Ahuwa, Eware the Second, Oba Tokpeye Ise.
Okay, talking about return, let's look at what happened to late Patrice Lumumba.
Very pathetic.
Patrice Lumumba was killed in prison. He was arrested. He was killed in prison. And at the end of the day, he was buried. However, some years back, just recently, the gold tooth, I know he was poured acid and his body melted. However, his gold tooth was recovered and was returned recently for the country to bury him. That's DR Congo, for them to bury him. Now, is that part of reparation?
It's not a full reparation.
Okay.
That is injustice, crime against humanity. Do you know that the dead has right to a decent burial? The dead has right to a decent burial. That is why when you want to bury the dead in the Christian way, it must be 6 feet. That is the right of the dead. Now you assassinated a leader of a country, a nationalist. Not just assassinating him, you now pour acid on his body. That is the height of injustice. I remember what this man said, Kwame Nkrumah. I am not Africa because I am born in Africa. But I am Africa because Africa is born in me. That was what Kwame Nkrumah said. He said, I am Africa not because I was born in Africa, but I am Africa because Africa is born in me.
That's a pan-Africanist ideology which is elusive today.
Yes, because we are having leaders today that are myopic, self-centered leaders in Africa. We had one that I usually celebrate and admire. Viva Madiba, Rolling Lala, Nelson Mandela. He was the one that unified South Africa together. He preached peace. That was why they gave him the Peace Prize. The International Peace Prize was given to him. You can see the South African anthem. Unkosi Kelele Africa.
Malu Pakamundo.
Yes. Sometimes when I render this anthem,
yes,
I become emotional. When I render the American anthem, I become emotional too.
Let's get this message from Chief Adebayo Ojo here in Ibadan. He says, the trans-Saharan slave trade by Arab traders also devastated us. Should we demand reparations from Arab nations too?
Yes.
Or is this only about the West?
Not only the West, the Arab world too. I told you how the Arab castrated African slaves. No human being was born as a slave. No human being was born with chains and fetters. Every new human neonate was born free. I've never seen a baby that was born today with chains and fetters. Everyone was born free. But human institution created the class system. And for the class system, we have what we call the ruling class and the lower class. Especially during the reign of the monarchical system, where you have slavery. It's so sad and unfortunate. Do you know that the inter-tribal war also led to the issue of capturing of slaves and captives? Captives were also being sold as slaves.
This call for reparation, does it also affect religion? I want us to talk about that.
It affects
many
religion.
people want to run away from that.
It affects religion.
Was it what brought religion to Africa from the West?
We overheard.
Overheard. Okay.
We overheard that a particular religion was also supporting slave trade.
Okay.
I don't want to mention the religion on air because it's very sensitive.
Very sensitive.
So anyone who wants to go and make investigation, you can go. There's a particular religion in the world that supported the issue of slave trade.
Okay.
And we can also see that we have some Christian missionaries too, who are also advocating for the abolition of what? Slavery. They should be commended as well too. Those who also fought against the slave trade. Because when you look at slave merchants, it became an industry. It's just like Nigeria today. Kidnapping for ransom. It's also a form of injustice. Kidnapping for ransom.
So if we blame the West, we blame the Arabs.
Yes.
We should also blame ourselves too. Like what happened in Jos recently, when several people were killed, and then they were termed bandits going to ransack a village in Jos and killing people. I call them terrorists. So terrorism is also part of slave trade.
Yes, because we have seen some of these. Where are the Chibok girls? Do you know that most of the girls are now becoming endangered human species? We have child soldiers in Africa too. Kids that are being captured and trained as child soldiers. Then we also have the girls that are being used as what? Sex slaves. So it's there. It's a form of injustice. So when we are talking about reparation, not just the West alone, the Arab nations too. The whole Africa too. The issue of what? Reparation for the injustice that was not being done. You can never find an African community in the Arab world just because the African men were castrated. Although you can find African communities in Americas, whether Northern American or Southern American.
From Mrs. Olufumilayo Adiola, she says, I'm a mother of 3. How will reparations translate to better schools and hospitals for my children in the next 10 years?
That's a good question. There's one thing colonialism did for Africa. The Christian missionaries, they were the ones that introduced Western education.
Yes.
It's a plus.
That's the CMS.
We had our own indigenous technology too. Before the white man came, we were the one weaving our own clothes too. They did not find Africa naked. So if the white man is saying that they discovered River Niger, that's a fallacy of the first order. They are the ones that discovered the source of River Niger. No! There were African inhabitants around that place too. Futajailon Island in Guinea.
Yes.
So how would you not say it was the white man that discovered River Niger? I disagree. That's the fallacy of the first order.
So we discovered
Ourselves.
Okay. Well, more questions here. Well, I hope we'll be able to wrap it all up with our time here on air. From Ibrahim Faru, he says, Nigeria's corruption and leadership failure have cost us more than colonialism. Shouldn't we fix ourselves before asking others to pay?
It's the fault of the masses. You know, I did mention the other time the maxim postulated by Paulo Silo. He said the worst part of a society manipulated by politics is to see the poor defending the rich who are responsible for their poverty. So when we are talking about bad leadership today, you blame the masses the more, not even the political class. Look at what is happening presently now. There are 3 ways you can be able to nominate your candidate. Direct primaries, indirect primaries, and consensus. Now, they have abolished indirect primaries now, which is the delegate system. They have not adopted what we call consensus and direct primaries. But do you know that consensus is a political fraud?
Consensus, political fraud?
It's a political fraud.
How?
Assuming you have gone by the way of direct primaries, every registered members of the political party will now be involved. That is what we call internal democracy. But here now, consensus is a political fraud in Nigeria.
Okay.
Because the highest bidder gets the ticket.
Okay, so let's get this message from Professor Ebere Nwosu, yes, UNN alumnus. It says, what is the current Nigerian government's official position in April 2026? Are we leading or following Ghana and South Africa when it comes to reparation?
You know, there's one thing you must understand about Nigeria. Nigeria is adjudged to be the most populous black nation on earth. Not in terms of land mass, but in terms of our population. It's a plus to us. But like what I keep saying it, Nigeria being the giant of Africa is more of a rhetoric than a reality. When you say you are the giant of Africa, your political system should be adjudged to be the best in Africa. Your economy should be adjudged to be the strongest in Africa. Your educational system should be adjudged to be the best model in Africa. Your healthcare delivery system should be adjudged to be the best in Africa. Your infrastructural system should be adjudged to be the best model in Africa. Your defense system and security should be adjudged to be the strongest in Africa. Your foreign policy should be adjudged to be the best example in Africa. But are we actually having it in Nigeria? So Nigeria is a great country, but it's rather sad and unfortunate. We are having bad leaders. Leaders who are not philosophers.
Okay, because of our time, Comrade Ofino, can you just set the agenda for today on this topic of reparation? Let's set an agenda.
The agenda is this. Africa is agitating for reparation. Not just reparation, full reparation for the injustice that was done against Africa in the past by the West and by the Arab world during the slave trade era.
All right, thank you, Comrade Ignatius Ofino, for giving us some insight on this reparation issue. But we still continue this conversation because it's still ongoing. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, Mazi Chike.
All right, thank you, Nigeria. Thank you for staying with the agenda this morning. I hope you got that agenda. The conversation does not end here. It must move from our studios to Aso Rock and to the streets. Justice delayed is justice denied, but justice demanded intelligently is justice delivered. I am Chike Ubogo. As always, I'll tell you, stay informed and stay engaged. Bye for now.